Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Bhagavan Shyam Kunda Radha Kundi Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mahakunda Vrita Dham ki jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagi ki jai, Shrimad Bhagavatam, Grantara Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Son of devotees, all glories to the Son of devotees, all glories to the Son of devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to His Divine Graces. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. So today we will continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading Canto 6, and we're starting a new chapter, chapter 12. And it's entitled Vikrasura's Glorious Death. So this is a very famous story of Vikrasura. And we'll read the summary, chapter summary. This chapter describes how Indra, the king of heaven, killed Vikrasura despite great reluctance. After Vikrasura finished speaking, he released his trident against King Indra with great anger. But Indra, using his thunderbolt, which was many times more powerful than the trident, broke the trident to pieces and cut off one of Vikrasura's arms. Nevertheless, Vikrasura used his remaining arm to strike Indra with an iron mace, making the thunderbolt fall from Indra's hand. Indra, being very ashamed of this, did not pick up the thunderbolt from the ground, but Vikrasura encouraged King Indra to pick it up and fight. Vikrasura then spoke to King Indra as follows, instructing him very well. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said, is the cause of victory and defeat. Not knowing that the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes, fools and rascals try to take credit for victory or defeat themselves. But everything is actually under the control of the Lord. No one but Him has any independence. The Purusha, the enjoyer, and Prakriti, the enjoyer, are under the control of the Lord, for it is by His supervision that everything works systematically. Not seeing the hand of the Supreme in every action, a fool considers himself the ruler and controller of everything. When one understands, however, that the real controller is the Supreme Personality of God, he is freed from the relativities of this world, such as distress, happiness, fear, and impurity. Thus, Indra and Vikrasura not only fought, but also engaged in philosophical discourses. Then they began to fight again. This time Indra was more powerful, and he severed Vikrasura's remaining arm. Vikrasura then assumed a gigantic form and swallowed King Indra. But Indra, being protected by the talisman known as Narayana Kavacham, was able to protect himself, even within Vikrasura's body. Thus he emerged from Vikrasura's abdomen and severed the demon's head from his body with his powerful thunderbolt. Severing the demon's head took one complete year to accomplish. Okay, so Gopinath Prabhu said we can read until verse 7. Yeah? So, verse 7 will have a longer purport, and verse 1 has a shorter purport. And the rest of the verses don't have any. We'll read 7 together.
As per your choice.
Can we read the first one? Can we read the last one? Yeah, the middle one.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I'll just read the translations for the other ones.
Okay, that's fine.
So text 1, translation and purport. Shukadeva Goswami said, desiring to give up his body, Vikrasura considered death in the battle preferable to victory. O King Parikshit, he vigorously took up his trident and with great force attacked Lord Indra, the king of heaven, just as Kaitava had forcefully attacked the Supreme Personality of God when the universe was inundated. Purport. Although Vikrasura repeatedly encouraged Indra to kill him with the thunderbolt, King Indra was morose at having to kill such a great devotee, and he was hesitant to throw it. Vridasura, disappointed that King Indra was reluctant despite his encouragement, took the initiative very forcefully by throwing his trident at Indra. Vridasura was not at all interested in victory. He was interested in being killed so that he could immediately return home back to God, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Tyaktva 90. After giving up his body, a devotee immediately returns to Lord Krishna and never returns to accept another body. This was Vritrasura's interest. 6.2. Then Vritrasura, the great hero of the demons, whirled his trident, which had points like the flames of the blazing fire at the end of the millennium. With great force and anger, he threw it at Indra, roaring and exclaiming loudly, "O sinful one, thus shall I kill you." Text 3. Flying in the sky, Vritrasura's trident resembled a brilliant meteor. Although the blazing weapon was difficult to look upon, King Indra, unafraid, cut it to pieces with his thunderbolt. Simultaneously, he cut off one of Vritrasura's arms, which was as thick as the body of Vasuki, the king of the serpents. Text 4. Although one of his arms was severed from his body, Vritrasura angrily approached King Indra and struck him on the jaw with an iron mace. He also struck the elephant that carried Indra, thus Indra dropped the thunderbolt from his hand. Text 5. The denizens of various planets, like the demigods, demons, charmers, and siddhis, but when they observed that Indra was in great danger, they lamented, "Alas, alas." 6. Having dropped the thunderbolt from his hand in the presence of his enemy, Indra was practically defeated and was very much ashamed. He dared not pick up his weapon again. Vritrasura, however, encouraged him, saying, "Take up your thunderbolt and kill your enemy. This is not the time to lament your fate." And text 7, we'll try to do together if anyone has any gadgets. Something. So it's 6, 12, 7. Yudsatam kutrachit atatayinam Jaya Sudaikatra Navai Paratmanam Savai Paratmanam What Vinaikam Utpatilayas Ishwaram
Vainaika utpattilaya stitishwaram
Sarvagyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Sarvakyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Jaya Sadaikatra Navai Paratmanam
Jaya Saraikatra Navai Paratmanam
Vinaikam Utpatilayas Titishwaram
Vinaikam Utpattilaya Stitishwaram
Sarvagyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Sarvakyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Jaya Sadaikatra Navai Paratmanam
Jaya Saraikatra Navai Paratmanam
Vinaikam Utpatilayas Titishwaram
Vinaikam Utpattilaya Stitishwaram
Sarvagyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Sarvakyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Yuyutsatam Kutrachit Atatayinam
Jaya Saraikatra Navai Paratmanam
Jaya Sadekatra Paratmanam
Vinaikam Utpattilaya Stitashwaram
Vinaykam Utpattilaya
Stitishwaram Sarvakyam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam
Sarvagyamadyam Purusham Sanatanam.
Word for word. Yuyutsatam
Yuyutsatam
of those who are belligerent.
of those who are belligerent
Kutrachit
kutrachit,
sometimes.
sometimes.
Adatainam,
Adatainam,
armed with weapons.
armed with weapons.
Jayaha,
Jayaha,
victory.
victory.
Sada, always.
Always.
Ekatra,
Ekatra,
in one place.
in one place.
Na,
Na,
not.
not.
Vai,
Vai,
indeed.
indeed.
Para Atmana,
Paramatmana,
of the subordinate living entities,
of the subordinate living entities,
who work only under the direction of the Supersoul.
who work only under the direction of the Supersoul.
Vina,
Vina,
except. Ekam,
Ekam,
one.
one.
Utpatti,
Utpatti,
of the creation.
of creation.
Laya,
Laya,
annihilation.
and annihilation.
Sthiti,
Sthiti,
and maintenance.
and maintenance.
Ishwaram,
Ishvara,
the controller.
the controller.
Sarvagyam,
Sarvagya,
who knows everything,
who knows everything,
past, present, and future.
past, present, and future.
Adyam,
Adyam,
the original.
the original.
Purusham,
Purusha,
enjoyer.
enjoyer.
Sanatanam,
Sanatana,
eternal.
eternal.
Translation and purport by His Younger Excellency Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Vritrasura continued. Oh, O Indra, no one is guaranteed of being always victorious, but the original enjoyer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, and he knows everything. Being dependent and being obliged to accept material bodies, belligerent subordinates are sometimes victorious and sometimes defeated. Okay, repeat. Vritrasura continued.
Vritrasura continued.
O Indra,
O Indra,
no one is guaranteed
no one is guaranteed
of being always victorious,
of being always
but
victorious,
the original enjoyer,
of the original,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead Bhagavan.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan.
He is the cause of creation,
He is the cause of creation,
maintenance, and annihilation,
maintenance, and annihilation,
and he knows everything.
and He knows everything.
Being dependent and being obliged
Being dependent and being obliged
to accept material bodies,
to accept material bodies,
belligerent subordinates are sometimes victorious
and sometimes
and
victorious,
sometimes defeated.
and sometimes defeated.
Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishta matas matir jnanam apoham vichar. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. When two parties fight, the fighting actually goes on under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, the Super Soul. Elsewhere in Gita 3:27, the Lord says, "Prakrite kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasha hankarami dhatma kartam matimanite." The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. The living entities work only under the direction of the Supreme Lord. The Lord gives orders to material nature, and she arranges facilities for the living entities. The living entities are not independent, although they foolishly think themselves the doers. Karta. Victory is always with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As for the subordinate living entities, they fight under the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Victory or defeat is not actually theirs. It is an arrangement by the Lord through the agency of material nature. Pride in victory or moroseness in defeat is useless. One should fully depend on the Supreme Personality of God, who is responsible for victory and defeat of all living entities. The Lord advises, Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hyakarmana. Perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. The living entity is ordered to act according to his position. Victory or defeat depends on the Supreme Lord. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. One must act sincerely according to his position. Victory or defeat depends on the Lord. Vritrasura encouraged Indra, saying, "Don't be morose because of my victory. There is no need to stop fighting. Instead, you should go on with your duty. When Krishna desires, he will certainly be victorious." This verse is very instructive for sincere workers in a Krishna consciousness movement. We should not be jubilant in victory or morose in defeat. We should make a sincere effort to implement the will of Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we should not be concerned with victory and defeat. Our only duty is to work sincerely so that our activities may be recognized by Krishna. Omagyanatamilandasya hinandina shavakaya chakshurmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Yena Rupade Swayam Rupa Jagannatam Bhagavate Swapadam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Vasajatam Sahadana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadharitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Paramani Hari Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripasindhubhyaja Patitanam Gaurabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Nasti Approximately 9 o'clock?
Or 8:30, 9 o'clock.
8:30
Yeah, somewhere there.
So, of course, this whole journey for me yesterday, and Anuradha, my wife, was saying that, we were actually going to see Gurudev now, and he cancelled his trip. So I can a little bit relate to this mood, but don't be dejected, carry on somehow or other. So we just carried on, and we still came to Helsinki. Then we go to Stockholm. So thank you for encouraging. I was more like Indra, thinking, okay, maybe we should not go. Gopinath and Mataji Saraswati, you were more like, come on, carry on, giving good instruction. So this is amazing, actually, pastime of Vritrasura. Some devotees, I believe it was Keshidaman, who was giving a class on this pastime in Vrindavan, and he was saying that actually this is one of the most important pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam. The reason for that is that it is actually really describing bhakti or glorifying bhakti in such a way that it even stands out as an independent entity, say bhakti, to such a degree, to such an extent that even such a, yes, you can say, demon as Vritrasura, who definitely didn't follow the four regulative principles, and so many other things. Not, of course, an example for us in that sense. He's a great example of someone who had bhakti, and even though he was such a demon, or acting as such a demon, he actually, after this particular appearance, incarnation, in the body of Vritrasura, he actually went back home, back to Godhead. So, and Indra, of course, must have learned the lesson here: do not criticize. And that will be one of the lessons here for sure, because Vritrasura was a demon not by his choice. He was a demon because he was cursed in his previous incarnation as Chitraketu Maharaj. And again, it was a glorious example of a Vaishnava who is ready to accept any. It was a curse, but any sort of situation as the will of the Lord. And here also we can see that the mood continues. That with Vasura is just he's he's losing one arm, for example. It's like, what would you feel if you would lose one arm? Would you carry on fighting or whatever? I mean, but they're Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas is a special type of personality type that they just don't care. You can see how in the battle of Kurukshetra they'll just be like covered in arrows of Bhishma. He was, you really literally have to Arjuna had to cover every single, part of his, inch of his body with arrows so that he literally could not move. Otherwise, if he was able to move, he was ready to carry on fighting. So in the same way here, in the summary, we have read that even after cutting his second arm, then Vritrasura still, opened his mouth and he swallowed him. So anything, anything. And this is a great example. And he is doing it. What is his mentality here? His mentality is he wants to show Prabhupada says, and that Vritrasura was not at all interested in victory. He was interested in being killed. So he was just using anything that he had. This is a great example for us. Anything that he had to accomplish this goal. He wanted to go back home, back to God. And somehow he knew that this was the last. He was going to go. He was going to be killed by Indra and go back home, back to God. So of course, in the same way, we have great examples in our movement, and currently, already for quite some time. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. I mean, looking at the condition of his body and the struggles that he has to go through physically is just incredible. Sometimes we have a headache and we call him, and say, "Oh, Prabhuji, I cannot come for my seva today," like this. And our temple president in New Zealand, Kalasamarka, we were saying that we were having a Jayapataka Maharaj Vyasa Puja celebration. And he, stressed this example that look, of course, Jayapataka Maharaj is a great devotee. Not only a great devotee, he's an associate of Lord Chaitanya, as per Srila Prabhupada's own words. Apparently, Srila Prabhupada wrote a request to the government, and he asked them, I believe it was 2 or 3 things. I don't remember the third one, if there were 3, but I remember the 2. He said, please. But anyway, he said that you must grant a citizenship to His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj because he is an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. Apparently, that's how it was. So, and they did. They actually fulfilled all those. I think there were 3 points. Prabhupada requested, 3 requests, and they fulfilled Prabhupada requests. So he's a very special devotee, but he's of course serving as an example to all of us that the material world will throw so many things at us, and it will constantly be something will be constantly wrong. Something will be, itching there, or painful there, or mentally disturbing here and there. Sometimes maybe there are no people, maybe there's too many people. Always something. Always something is disturbing, or it's maybe too hot, and then it's too wet, and then it's too cold, and this and that. And Matra Sparshas to come there, Shapasham Supadika. That verse is really interesting because I asked Guru Maharaj once that, what does it mean that we have to tolerate happiness? Distress is easy, right? Because someone said something, okay, what to do? I have to carry on. And then, if something hurts or something, I'm sick or whatever, just have to carry on, still chant my rounds or come for morning program or whatever. But what does it mean to tolerate happiness? And so then he explained, because I just didn't understand what it means. And he said that happiness also has basically this potency of, swaying us from the path. You become so happy that, you're thinking, okay, maybe I don't need to chant anymore, or, I don't want to come to program, or whatever, I'm so happy. I don't need this anymore. For whatever reason, I will forget. So this verse, Martyrs Specials become indicates that whatever happens, is it good or bad, we carry on with our service, with our duties in our spiritual life. So that's the main point of that verse for us, I guess, for devotees. That whatever happens, we just carry on. And so whatever faculties we have, we have hands, legs, ears, eyes, speech, senses, touch. We can use them all in Christian service, and one way or the other, all of those senses they will be diminishing as the age progresses. As body gets older and older. I recently read a book or compilation by Chaitanya Chandra. It's a book on, I think it's called Final Exam or Final Lesson, something like that. And it's a book compilation of all sorts of various devotees leaving this world, mostly due to illnesses, I would say, actually cancer, at least in that particular book. And it's amazing to see how, of course, the Lord is Krishna is very merciful. And somehow or other, in all those situations, they were surrounded by devotees. The devotee association, they had, some of them lead to them or chant, or, so they will be with devotees. And then it is a really great struggle. I was definitely sobered by it, really, because I was always, you have this romantic idea of, okay, I'm just going to be there, and I'm just going to be lying down, and whatever, and then just Hare Krishna, and I'll pass away. But there is so much pain, even devotees who have been practicing for a long time, and from this disease or whatever. There is a lot of pain, and a lot of times it's really difficult to chant, but they would still try. They would still try, and because they would hear, they would chant in their minds sometimes. Sometimes, of course, there are some stories that are really amazing. A person who's just quite peaceful the whole time. But the struggle is usually there until the very last moment, and sure, it's really interesting because. I immediately remember that verse, the real mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, as he himself says it in Bhagavatam, he says it, he takes away. He takes away everything from a devotee. And then what's really rarely quoted is that the second part of that verse is that he says, then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him, and in this way he suffers one misery after the other, right? So it's not like, okay, you just taken it and that's it, bye-bye. No, it's one misery after the other. So it actually goes like this. But my realization also, not my realization, but from reading, my understanding of this is that it's to do with material things. It's material attachments Krishna is talking about. He's not talking about he's going to take away bhakti or your faith in devotional service or any of these things. He's going to take your faith in dollar and fame and, and beauty of this world, and all these things. And that's what actually all these deaths due to diseases and other things were actually doing. They were taking away, they're stripping away everything that we're thinking we are, but we're not. And it's really stripping it down to the essence. And the essence is just like His Holiness Jayavati Maharaj. I was just traveling with Ruchi team, Maharaj Swami, and Jayavati Maharaj. We met in a few places and a few classes. I heard from him, and he published a book on Kirtan standards. And it's really nice because first of all, it's Prabhupada Katha. because it's all to do with what Prabhupada said and what certain is really nice. And then, he's basically, again, stripping the kirtan down to, what's really needed for kirtan. You don't need to be a great musician for kirtan. You don't need to know 365 beats, Mridanga beats for kirtan. You don't need all of those things, right? So what you need for kirtan is
Holy name.
holy name, yes. Holy name is there even, yeah. What do you need? Shubhana. Bhakti. You need the desire to please the Lord. Okay, you can clap your hands, you can bang the kartals, you can develop the skills also, no problem. Right? You can arrange it. But what's really required is, the desire to please the Lord. So that's the essence. So when all these disease conditions happen, these devotees, it really strips them down to, okay, this is what the main thing is. And a lot of times, we actually had in the Riga temple, I came back and I found out, I was really like, wow, this is incredible. Because we actually had quite a few stroke cases this springtime. Well, two actually, and then one devotee or sometime ago, a year or so ago also. And so one Mataji, she her son told me this. He went to the hospital to see her after she had a stroke, and he said that her speech was impaired to such a degree that she could not basically say anything. She just could not speak, but she could say the whole Mahamantra. And I was like, because I studied psychology, I studied brain, all of that. So that to me, that immediately meant that basically her material ability to speak something is gone. But the Mahamantra is not material, right? It's actually, its holy name is Krishna himself. Nama Chintamani Krishna. That it's eternal, it's full of bliss, and so many wonderful qualities, and it's Krishna himself. So this was like another proof to me that living example of how a person cannot materially speaking say anything, but the holy name is still there. So it's amazing. Actually, it is on another platform. It's just incredible. And so, Srila Prabhupada in the purport to this, actually this is purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, because it's this verse, Yasehama Mudana, comes in the 88th chapter of the 10th canto. So they give this example, not example, but they explanation. How does it happen that devotional service helps to kind of strip down a person? And Srila Rupa Goswami and Sri Bhakti Samrita Sindhu explains how Vaishnava is relieved of all karmic reactions, including those that have not yet begun to manifest, aparabha, those that are just about to manifest, kuta, and those that are barely manifesting, bija, and those that have manifest fully, prarabdha. And so he gives a beautiful example. He says, just as a lotus flower loses its petals one by one, so in the same way, if one takes shelter of devotional service, then all these karmic reactions are falling apart. That's really beautiful visual description. And the purport here is really amazing. So this is a description of devotional service, which is the process of worshiping the Supreme Lord. It consists of fixing the mind upon Him by becoming disinterested in all material designations, both in this life and the next. It results in a dissolution of all karma. While it's certainly true that those who practice devotional service remain in material bodies and apparently material situations for some time, this is simply an expression of the inconceivable mercy of the Lord, who bestows the fruits of devotion. So this is what I was going to say here. But why this happened? Why the devotees seem to suffer, or some sort of situation? Because the Lord bestows the fruits of devotion only when devotion has become pure completely. So it's a purification process. So that's why they say, oh, Prabhu, you got sick or whatever, it's a purification. Of course, our Guru Maharaj always jokes to say that's our stupidity a lot of times because we don't follow certain basic precautions. But when it comes to, this, when you've done everything, like, the Guru gives example that when you drive, you stop at the red light, you wear the seatbelt, because this is what Krishna has given you, or given us as, certain protection that is our responsibility. But if we don't do those things and something happens because we didn't do those things, then that's our stupidity. But if we follow all those, safety precautions, etc., and something still happens outside of our, outside of our ability to control or to do, then that's definitely Krishna, Krishna's hand. Like there's one story of one lady. She passed away. It was in Moscow. She was completely absorbed in service all the time. She was always thinking how to serve the deities, what sort of outfit to make, what to cook for them. She was quite young, about 30-something years old. And she was walking with this other Mataji. They were walking through the temple, and this lady that passed away, she was completely like absorbed in some thoughts. She was actually anxious about some particular aspect of her service that she needed to do. And this other lady who was describing this situation said that it's just, she basically left this world without even any trace of fear or anything, because she was just walking to the temple, thinking of what service to do, and then she just was gone like this immediately. She didn't even notice anything because it was impossible to notice anything. She even looked the other direction. What happened was that they were crossing the road, and it was early in the morning, and Moscow roads are really huge roads, like wide, there's many lanes. And they were crossing one of those roads, and this lady that is describing it, she says, I don't understand how this person driving did not see us, because there was nobody there. It was just, it was bright day. It was not like, rainy, gray or whatever. It was bright day, bright morning, and then they were walking, and he was driving really fast, like over 100 kilometers an hour, and she actually looked away at that time. She completely looked away, and I think maybe she even was talking something about what she needed to do, and she just ran over like this, and it was immediate death, no wonder. And that, so she definitely just like stepped into, spiritual realm. Like she was just walking and ended up, she was walking to the temple and she ended up somewhere in Krishna Loka or something. And it's just like, there is a really beautiful description that really struck me a lot. There is a book by Shoran Maharaj, Krishna Sangati. And it's a really amazing book about meetings with Krishna. And so there's one episode that describes Arjuna. So we all heard the story how Arjuna went to Dwarka, and then Krishna told him that he's going to leave, and then he gave him instructions. That he had to take his queens and protect them. He had to take them to Vrindavan. And, he was defeated by those cowherds who came and. Basically, he forgot all his skills. He wasn't able to, do anything. He was really like, what is happening? They're just simple cards and they're beating me up, and taking all the queens. Of course, that was Krishna and his arrangement. And so then he comes back and, he tells Yudhishthira about everything, and then everybody's really depressed. But his consciousness, he's constantly thinking about Krishna. And he's thinking how Krishna told him, we're going to meet soon, and how is it going to happen, And so he's completely fixed in thoughts. So this is what it says, that one needs to be completely fixed in thoughts on Krishna and not, have any hopes basically for future, neither in this life nor the next life, but just completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And so eventually, Pandavas, they go to the Himalayas, right? And so here the description goes that they walk in the Himalayas, and there are rocks and stuff, right? So, and Arjuna is walking, and he's basically looking like at the ground, because his head is, lower, and he's walking, and he's thinking about Krishna. And then, at some point he starts to notice that, some of the rocks, they're like, really pure white marble. Some of the rocks are like blue sapphire, like this. And then he walks, but he's just noticing it, but he's still, he's like this. And then there's a certain hill, and he sees that all the rocks, basically all the rocks are now marble and sapphire, like this. And he walks over the hill, and he sees there is a palace, and Krishna is standing on the terrace of the palace, and he says, "My dear Saka, I told you we will meet soon." Here we are. And I was reading this, I was thinking, what's happening here, right? And what I understood from this is that basically this is the passing of the devotee in Krishna consciousness. Is that he's just like Prabhupada said, it's just stepping from one room to another, right? So he's kind of leaving this world. He came in the same body, I believe, anyway, because his body was spiritualized. And this is how he's in one moment he's in complete separation with Krishna, and then suddenly he just walks into Krishna's pastime, like this, and then he's completely reunited. So this was a really great description of this and how it actually happened. So when we practice, our sadhana bhakti, and slowly but surely, the heart will get purified. And heart gets purified means, all these kutas, beaches, parabha, karmas, they all get purified, they all get dissolved in this process of bhakti. And then how it happens is that basically it's also described in this purport here that right, here we go. So although Vaishnava's happiness and distress are felt as a pleasure and pain, there's no doubt about it. When Arjuna is lamenting on the battlefield, right, he's saying, "I'm about to kill my relatives," and all that. In Gita Amrita, which is kind of Bhagavad Gita, but in a little bit different version, there Krishna says, "Yes, you will feel all that pain of killing your relatives, losing your relatives, etc. But you nishtra gunya bhavajana, that you go beyond the three modes, rise above the three modes of material nature, because this is all carried out as quoted by Srila Prabhupada here, 327, that it's all practically among living complete. It's all carried out by the three modes of material nature. It's just like a big show, that it's like a movie, it's happening, and then when the movie is done, it's all done. So, like this, Krishna is saying, yes, you will suffer, but this is just because we are still absorbed in this, we are attached to this, particular form of this world. Yes, you will, and it's normal. So, Srila Prabhupada actually praises Arjuna. He both praises him, and he also criticizes different aspects. But he praises Arjuna because he says he's a Vaishnava, his heart is of a Vaishnava, his compassion. So like this is devotee, we should be like that also. We should not be hard-hearted. But then, of course, he's criticizing him, saying that, well, he's absorbing his body platform. So they felt as pleasure and pain, just like ordinary karmic reactions. They are different in a significant sense. Material happiness and distress arising from karma leave a subtle residue, the seed for future entanglement. Right, so whatever we do or experience in the material world, then that leaves some trace for future, happiness or suffering. Such enjoyment and suffering tend toward degradation and increase the danger of falling into hellish oblivion. Happiness and distress generated from the Supreme Lord's desires or leave no trace after their immediate purpose has been served. Moreover, Vaishnava who enjoys such reciprocation with the Lord is in no danger of falling down into meshes. As Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, and the Judge of all departed souls, declares, "My dear servants, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the holy name." So this is the the panacea or the instruction from Yamaraj himself, to us. Of course, this is a whole parampara. Acharya Srila Prabhupada, they brought it to us. So please do not bring to me those people who are not using their tongues to chant the holy name and qualities of Krishna. whose hearts do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. Just send me those who do not perform their duties toward Vishnu, which are the only duties in human life. Please bring me all such fools and rascals. Right? So this is amazing. And then just to probably top it off, finish it off with some encouragement also. When I was traveling, I was really encouraged by His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami. Because there is this whole situation with this danger of like Third World War and threats of nuclear war and who knows all these different things that are going on. And people are really like, when we were traveling, I was just looking at people on the streets and I was thinking, this is just really foolish. People are just, because they may be like big bosses or, something, material achievement wise, they may be, some brilliant people, but they're acting completely foolishly, on the streets and bars, restaurants, whatever, in their free time. They're just completely foolish. And then I was thinking, yeah, it's just ignorance. They just don't know. And most of them, they're innocent people. They just basically they don't know. That's all. Of course, there may be some, demons who are, actually keeping them in that, condition. But most of the people that are out there, they're innocent. And of course, the Madhyamadikari, one who preaches, then he's merciful to the innocent. That's the thing. And so I was wondering, what are we doing here? We're going out, in the streets and we're making people chant and dance. And so what's the use, of that? And Sandipani Muni also put it in his podcast just recently I watched. He explained it really nicely also. He said that when we walk through the streets and we chant the holy name, people hear it. This is called Agyata Sukriti. They just get something. But then he said that when you actually come to people and you make them chant, or you make them dance, or you make them clap, or you make them smile, or whatever. This is Bhakti Mukhi Sukriti, which is even more powerful because that is actually it's a difference between the two is Agyata Sukriti is something unknown. You give them let's say a candy or whatever, and it's prashadam, but they don't know it's prashadam. They will just take it and eat it, and that will be Agyata Sukriti. But if they know it's prashadam, then it will be Bhakti Mukhi Sukriti. So, and then Mahavishnu Swami Maharaj is saying that, we come to people and we are asking them, to please chant the holy name. No, we're asking them, can you say Hare Krishna? Can you please say Hare Krishna? And then they say Hare Krishna, and then they dance. And he says they know we are, we're not just some random people. We're dressed as devotees. We have tilaka, and most people know that Krishna is something religious, something. So they do it, and then the way they do it also is really interesting. He described is that because we are coming to them and we are asking them to chant the holy name, they do it only to please the devotee who's asking. So they're actually what they're doing is they're serving the devotee, which is Yasya Prasada Bhagavatam. So Krishna is even more pleased when you serve the devotee rather than Krishna directly. So then, actually, that person who is responding to the devotee like this, he is actually making a lot of spiritual progress. And what's really how this was really relating to this whole war situation is that apparently he's telling me he told me a story that there was some time ago. There was a situation where there was a man, a military man who is in charge of pressing the button to send the rockets in Soviet Union. So he was in charge. He received an order to press that button. So he was supposed to press the button to send the rockets back to US or whatever, the war situation. But he didn't. For whatever reason, he thought that the radar was showing the rockets that are flying into them. Somehow it was a little dodgy something. He didn't believe it for whatever reason. And it happened apparently at the same time that Prabhupada stepped on the American soil. Right? So this situation happened. So this is the episode 1 of no war, like Krishna somehow not letting it happen. Then another amazing thing was I read Ravindranath Swarup's essay on desire tree, and it was interesting essay because there he says that Prabhupada sometimes he would make some sort of predictions what's going to happen. And one of those predictions was that there will be a third world war now, like in 74, 75. There was really, it was really itchy situation, really, on the border. And so it didn't happen. And then Ravindra Group was like, how is it that Prabhupada, he didn't just throw around with predictions, like this, and they really happened, whatever he said. So he was really curious to follow up and find out what happened. So he found out that Srila Prabhupada actually was asked about why this war didn't happen. And he said, Krishna changed his mind. And Ravindra Swarup in his essay, he's saying, he had this wow moment that Krishna is a person. He can change his mind, right? He can say, okay, now we're going to have this and this and that, and then, he can, okay, no need to change his mind. And then again, why? We of course, as followers of Srila Prabhupada and Gaudiya Vaishnava, would say because Prabhupada was preaching, and his preaching mission was quite successful. It was spreading all over the place, and people were receiving it nicely. Then another one was that Prabhupada did still say that there will be third world war, it's inevitable. And the devotees were worried and they were asking Prabhupada, so what can be done? And so Prabhupada said, only devotees can stop the war. And so then when Mahavishnu Swami was explaining this to me that, and he's saying that Krishna sees that these people, that when devotees go out, Krishna will see. His words amazing. He says that Krishna will see that my devotees, they're trying really nicely, and these people, they're responding nicely, favorably. They're also inclined. So maybe let's put this off for some more time. Like this. So this is actually practically how, to me, that was how it practically actually works. And then Swami Bhakti Mukunda Maharaj, he made this really amazing point. It's really a silly point, I would say, but it's really a nice point. He was saying that he was giving an example. There was a boat, and that boat had two levels. And on the bottom level there were fools, and on the top level there were intelligent people. And so somehow or other, the drinking water, was at the level where the intelligent people were. So the fools, they had to run up to get the drinking water. And so one of the brightest fools, he was thinking, why do I have to run up all the time for water? We have so much water down there. So they were drilling a hole through the boat. And the intelligent people, or so-called intelligent people, they were laughing at those fools, saying, hey, look, those fools are just drilling a hole. They're really fools. So what's the moral of the story is that basically the devotees, or supposedly the intelligent people, if they're just looking at the society and saying, you fools and rascals, you're just going down, we're in the same boat. We're materially, of course, spiritually speaking, yes, okay, devotees will, go back to spiritual world or whatever, or maybe not, because sometimes Prabhupada says action is better than inaction here in Prabhupada, right? Sometimes inaction is really worse than action. So in this particular case, then Bhakti Maharaj was saying that we need to go out there and tell people this is somehow we need to be out there. We cannot just hide, because then we help this. Otherwise, we cannot expect that magically somehow the situation will change. No, only if the devotees put some effort. If we go outside, if we meet the people, if we tell them about Krishna, they're not this body. Krishna is the supreme personality of God, and he's the enjoyer, etc. But only then Krishna will, change his mind, and also we will greatly advance. This is because we will be able to please our spiritual masters. That's the mood of our acharyas, at least. Bhaktivinoda Thakur started it for sure, and Bhaktivedanta Swami and Srila Prabhupada. That's why they're glorified all over the world by so many people, and so many people have been able to change their hearts, through this, and then that's how, and that's the mood of blood marriage, the mood of similar with he's telling him, okay, what do you want? He says, I don't need anything. I'm fully satisfied. What else do I need? But I cannot see the sufferings of all those fools and rascals. So that's the only pain that a devotee really has. So then Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, he went through so much suffering, so many difficulties. I just heard this morning, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he was saying how at some point when Satsarup Maharaj, he was collecting information for Ramrita. There was one episode that was described by Harikesh Swami, and that there was one moment in time when Srila Prabhupada was just almost like every hour or so he was getting bad news. It was like in Germany, police took over the castle, and then the voters are fighting, and there's this problem and that problem and that problem, and everybody in the room, and everybody's like dejected, really. Everybody's like thinking, okay, oh my God, what's happening? And he's saying that Prabhupada visibly he looked like he was also, upset. And then he said, okay, everybody, you get out of the room. So they all left the room, but someone was peeking in the keyhole, looking at what Srila Prabhupada was going to do. And they said that Srila Prabhupada laid down on the floor and he started laughing like anything. He was cracking up. And the reason for that also, the reason for that, the devotees explain, is that actually there is a description of also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj saying that when someone came to him and he was complaining about so many difficulties, and then he said, you're on the right path. Because there are so many difficulties, materially speaking. It's basically Srila Prabhupada caused such a stir in the world. It stirred up so many different people, basically shook up Maya, really, to a great extent. And so he was laughing. He was laughing, and this is, of course, also the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Kunti also, of course, prays in that same way. She prays that please take away all my, give me difficulties, material difficulties. Right? It's strange prayer for us, for sure, and we are told not to pray like this, because we're not so pure. And also, sometimes devotees go in front of Lord Nrsimhadev, out of inspiration, out of sentiment, I guess. Because when it starts happening, you're thinking, oh my God, I didn't pray for that. But, like praying, take away everything, rid my heart from all the unantles. And then when it starts happening, then the devotees think, not like this. So there's always should be some fine print, like, okay, you can take everything, but make it painless, or, something. Make it slow, or whatever, something. So we should just know where we are, and as Srila Prabhupada pointed many times, that we should know where we are. Like with the Surya here, he is completely fixed. He knows where he wants to go. He is not bewildered by his, he's losing the arm and losing this battle, etc. He's not attached to his position. He's not attached to his obviously beauty or riches or wealth. He's not attached to anything in this world. He's completely fixed on spiritual world. And so in the same way was Queen Kunti also. She was completely fixed in the spiritual world and her relationship with Krishna, and she just she thought, to hell with everything, if we don't see Krishna, then what's the use of anything? So when we have that mentality, then yes, we can pray also, and we will pray like that. When we will have that mentality, we will naturally also pray. It's not something artificial, for sure. And so for now, we have the sadhana bhakti process, and this really sweet process. It's a sweet process, but because we're not pure, it feels bitter. Just like Rupa Goswami explains that it's like the jaundice. We're sick with this jaundice, and that's why the holy name doesn't taste so sweet. But the cure for this jaundice is to suck on sugar candy, which will taste bitter. So we have this sadhana bhakti, which tastes bitter to us, but it actually is really sweet, and eventually I can certainly feel some aspects of it becoming sweet. Originally they were not, I'm not saying I'm advanced, but I'm just a little bit more advanced than I was when I came to Krishna consciousness. So naturally I know that some things are really sweet, and I thought they were not. So I definitely have that. I'm sure you also have that experience, everyone. So this is some great encouragement from Krishna also to carry on. And eventually, all those things that we're so attached now to, we're so attached and thinking, oh my God, I cannot live without them. But eventually, gradually, if we follow this process, then eventually we will be able to completely surrender to Krishna, and it will not be like, okay, I surrender, but it will be really sweet. It's the best thing. It's the best thing that will ever happen to us is going back home, back to God, and then it will be happening every moment. And of course, going back home, back to God, it doesn't mean that we have to leave this body to do that. It's happening in consciousness. So back home, back to God is in our consciousness. Actually, Prabhupada would say the Krishna consciousness. Someone will ask him, do you see Krishna? And he would say, how can you not see Krishna? Because Krishna is everywhere. If you have that, Imagine Bhakti Devotion, that's a very, very good. If your eyes are anointed with salve or this ointment of love to Krishna, then And then the last thing, sorry. The most amazing thing that I realized at one point was that a lot of times in the material world we want to be loved. We want to create a situation where everybody loves us, but we really don't feel anything out of that. What's the use of everyone loving us, and we can be like, some people are, in a mental asylum or something, they're completely depressed, they take someone who kills to feel better, but people outside, they love them so much, they think, okay, this is so much people, what happened, and they cannot help. So what's the use of that person in a mental asylum to the fact that everybody loves them? So my realization was, that it's really important to love and not to be loved. And so this process is actually awakening love. And then it comes to such a degree that, the last verse of Shikshashtakam, of course, we know that you love so much, she loves Krishna, Srimad loves Krishna so much. But same way also, all the residents of Vrindavan, everyone, it's the Vrajavasi consciousness. They love Krishna so much that even if he doesn't love them back, even if he creates trouble for them, it doesn't matter. Why? Because they love him. That's really the important point. So the awakening of love doesn't even mean, because a lot of times people say God loves you, so you have to love him back. It doesn't matter whether he loves me. Once you come to that consciousness, then I love him and I'm ready to do it. And that's the beautiful feeling that we are all aspiring for. And this is the ecstasy that is there in this, in us all. So this is a process of awakening that ecstasy again, to let it shine. And then it doesn't matter. They cut off your hand, they give you a stroke, they give you cancer, they give you this. It doesn't matter. Kadama Maharaj, leaving this world is such a, it's just like, it's such a Kadama Maharaj way, really. It's such an explosion, I feel like, it's just like incredible, Jayapataka Maharaj still serving so much, so Gopal Krishna Maharaj serving so many years, despite all the, we met Guru Maharaj in India last winter, this last winter. And there was a rumor before he came, one of the godbrothers, he told me, oh, Guru Maharaj wants to resign from the GBC. And then I asked Guru Maharaj, I said, Guru Maharaj, I've heard the rumor that you were about to resign from GBC. He said, yeah, I was thinking to, but then I'm looking at Jayapataka Maharaj, I'm looking at Gopal Krishna Maharaj, they're not resigning, and so how can I resign? So they're great examples for us. Jai International Bhagavatam ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you so much. Anything? Add? Subtract? Yes,
Yeah, I was wondering, because we have been reading Vritrasura story, and also here in the summary, Vritrasura seemingly is going like a back and forth. He's telling like a very deep philosophy to Indra, but at the same time, his mentality is to destroy Indra still. So I'm kind of bewildered. Why is this? Such a knowledgeable person knows the goal of life, and still he wants to destroy his enemy. He's keeping an enemy after all this. Oh, just wondering why is this happening?
Well, it could be. I'm just, it's a really good, interesting question. And there are a few things that I came to my mind when you were asking the question. Is that one thing is that Krishna is saying that you should perform your duty. So not someone else's duty, and performing someone else's duty is more dangerous. So Vitrasura's duty is to be a demon and to fight with Indra. And then also that Vitrasura, as a knowledgeable person, he would know that this Vajra was created of Dadichi's bones to actually kill Vitrasura. So that was the instruction was given by Krishna himself, by Vishnu. So he knew that was meant to happen, and then Srila Prabhupada in this the sentence that we read in Prabhupada, he's describing that his only purpose was to get killed by Indra. So he was just trying to encourage him to do it, and because he's a big demon, it's probably not, as we heard, cutting his head took a whole year. I also don't know whether it's the year of the demigods, because it describes that it's the time that the sun and all the planets revolve, and that's actually our year. So perhaps for the demigods it wasn't a year; it was a bit faster than that. But for the residents of our realm, then it takes a whole year to cut his head. And so so it took quite an effort to kill him, and Vitrasura knew that. So he just wanted to. He just wanted to Indra to kill him off as fast as possible, and that's why he was rounding him up. He was trying to. And then nature, like Arjuna also didn't want to fight. He wanted to go to the forest and not do those things, but it was Krishna's plan. So perhaps here it was also Vishnu's plan. As I'm saying, the Richi's bones are the proof of it, because that was given to the demigods by Krishna to kill the Vitrasura particularly. So, yeah. Anything you can add about that?
Yeah,
I'm sure
maybe something like that. When the duty of a bird is to, when there's a kid who doesn't want to go to school, and parents might say that the duty of a bird is to chirp, the duty of a dog is to bark, the duty of the kids go to school.
Okay.
So
the duty followed. So basically, perform your duty.
Yeah.
It's the same with I guess Bali Maharaj also, you can say, because Bali Maharaj was also, looking at how the whole story ended and how Prahlad Maharaj was his grandfather. Bali Maharaj knew about it. When the time came, he disobeyed his guru's order and still fulfilled the promise that he gave to Vamandev to give the 3 steps, even though he knew that was a supreme person and he was going to take everything from him. And then he was, in complete surrender. So you can also say, well, how he was, such a great demon, taking over having the planets and the whole thing. But at the same time, he seemed to be a great devotee. Not just at that moment, he was obviously a devotee before that. That was just a moment to show that. And also in the same way, the story of Tulsi Shalgram Vivaha, right? Because it's also in Sudama, right? Sudama became the Shankachuda, right? The husband of Tulsi. Also, he was a great demon. He was a big demon. And even though the Gurudev describes this pastime as they were Jatismara, they knew who they were in the spiritual world. They knew it was Sudama and Tulsi. But in this world, they acted as, he was a demon, a big demon. So that was his role. Yeah. Pastime, arrangement of the Lord, performing your duty, show an example in this person. Actually, this also Bhaktisiddhanta Swami reminded us that actually in Padma Purana, I believe, the Srimad Bhagavatam is described as that Purana which describes killing of Vitrasura. So actually, Srimad Bhagavatam is known by this particular pastime. It is identified by this particular pastime in the other Puranas. So this is a really special pastime, and it's obviously very bewildering, and there are many layers of uncovering. covering, and we should definitely not think that okay, I'm not going to follow the principles because so it's fine. That's not our our thing is follow our acharyas. But the example is there that bhakti is shining through despite any circumstance, and like actually that's also interesting. That Brajan, you might know him, Prabhu Bhakti Vinod, she was just speaking at our place, and he was saying like Lord Chaitanya has brought this Umatojvala rasa, something that is never even spoken of or not known, for millennia, for a really long time. And he brought this, and yes, we're not qualified, and yes, we can get it. So it's like we are not qualified to get it, but we can get it because he brought it. He brought it to give to us. We definitely have no qualification for it, yet at the same time, it's available for us. So, and this is the power. This is again the power of the Supreme, because we were talking with Dad about it after. He's like, how is it? I don't like qualifications. Of course, you don't have qualification. But if you say that I cannot get it, that means you're putting some, inability, a weakness on the part of the Lord, because He can do anything. He is the Supreme Personality of God. Even the lowest of the low can get the highest of the high. So that's the Namo Mahavadanya. Krishna Prabhu. He came and he gave his familial relationships with the Lord, not just like, oh my God, so nice, so beautiful, but no, it's a really deep personal relationship. Thank you so much.
Praise Acarya Prabhu ki.